Few questions on monocultures. And what does mono mean? Yeah, mono means one. So we have a couple examples here. We've got corn, salmon, and livestock or cows. And these are monocultures. There's one thing. And what are some issues with doing monocultures? Who is this promoting? If you have this one source here of this abundant food, who's going to do really well? Pests. So monocultures, pests do really well because they have so much food, because they're eating that monoculture. It's all over the place. It reduces ecosystem complexity. And by increasing the pests, you're going to also increase pesticides. All right, so that pesticide use, you're going to increase it with monocultures, and one type of pesticide or use for livestock, whether it's fish, is antibiotics. So antibiotics are fed in large quantities to fish and cows to try to reduce infections, infectious diseases. So there was a question on there about farm-grown salmon. Well, farm-grown salmon have a chance of a infection from disease because they are close proximity to each other and they're all the same. So there's high chances of infection. So that's why they try to use antibiotics. So if we look at usage of antibiotics and human health effects, well, as we consume these livestock, we also get exposure of the antibiotics, and that can cause an increase in human mortality. It can cost more in human health, but we're also facilitating increase resistant diseases. So as we use these antibiotics more, like the pesticide treadmill, resistant strands are going to do better. So antibiotics and using to try to keep your livestock alive have negative effects on humans. Two terms that you might see, they were on the practice exam and more than likely they will be on the actual exam. Bioaccumulation. What does accumulation means? Accumulate is where you tend to gather stuff over time. And that's really what it is. And you can see as time moves this way, as young fish become old fish, they're consumers, so they have to consume. So over time, what happens inside of them? Yeah, they accumulate matter. You're growing, so you're accumulating matter as you grow. Well, if pesticides, or not just pesticides, but any type of persistent, which means non-degraded, chemical is in the environment, it will accumulate as you continue to eat the same source. If it's in that source, you will accumulate that molecule more and more throughout your life. So older you get, the higher and higher your concentration of different non-degradable contaminants. That's what contaminant. That was what I was looking for. And then you have this word biomagnification. And as you remember back to energy transfer, let's look here at energy transfer. What happens to energy at the top? Very low. So if energy is very low, what does that tell you that these guys have to do a lot of? Yeah, they have to eat. They have to eat a lot. So if you're eating a lot, you're accumulating a lot. So therefore, if you have some type of contaminant down at this level, as you keep moving up the food chain, as those have to eat more to get the same amount of energy, they tend to accumulate more and more harmful substances in their body. So that's that is biomagnification. Higher the food chain, more accumulated contaminants are within organisms. A few questions on solid waste. If we start out by looking over here at this diagram, what has the highest amount of waste, or what product is the most abundant waste? Yeah, paper. Paper is the most thrown away solid product. Then you have food scraps, yard trimmings like branches or lawn trimmings. And then you have plastics and then metals. Okay, so the highest is paper. That was a question that was on the exam. And then what do we do with this trash? Where do we put it? Well, the most used is a landfill, which is just a way to compact the trash buried underground. And then as you look at some of the ones that are more favored but not used as much, reused is the most favored. It reduces solid waste, and then recycling, but they're not used as often. So landfill is the highest, most used, but it's also not favored because it's very land consuming, energy consuming, and then you have this stuff sitting here for long periods of time and no one wants to live there. So the highest waste product is paper, and we've got landfills that we're going to look at a little more now. So looking at this is a landfill. Let me put this up here so I don't forget. Landfill. And we've got a landfill that's been complete here and a landfill that's in process here. And what they do is they dig down a big hole. And they put plastic liners on the side and also sand in there. And then they pile in the trash, so solid waste comes in. Well, at the bottom, you got a concern because that plastic liner and the sand can cause some types of contaminants that are in the trash to leach out into water. So as it can get into our water supplies, that's a huge concern with humans. So we don't want that water coming into our houses and what we drink. So they also monitor it by looking at groundwater. So they've got pumps at a faraway site so they can look to see if there is any types of contaminants. And then when they finish, to make sure there's no erosion, what are they going to put on top of it? Some of you might have seen this. They put grass. So they put and lay that grass down so wind doesn't erode it out. All right, last thing we're going to look at here is the nitrogen cycle. And there was a question on how nitrogen transfers from one place to another. And if you think of the carbon cycle, what causes carbon to move from the atmosphere to, or pull it out of the atmosphere? Yeah, plants. Well, here with nitrogen, you got nitrogen fixation, denitrification, assimilation. What causes it to move from one place to another? The main thing that causes it to move is bacteria. So it's bacteria fixating nitrogen out of the atmosphere, so that's making it move down, or nitrogen denitrification, causing it to go back to a gas, or bacteria help to use for assimilation. So that's the nitrogen cycle, looking at what causes it to change, and that's bacteria. And then also, remember we looked at the last case study at how it can leach out of soil and get into water, and that will cause increase of nitrogen in the water, which would cause eutrophication. All right, there it is, the review for the practice exam and some of the questions. I hope it helped. We will be reviewing it in class. And shoot me a message if you have any questions. Thanks.